Hello and welcome to Made News Network, your source for Band-Maid news on YouTube. Today, I am here with Richard Hogan, who was fortunate, crazy enough to attend every single show on the tour, starting from Aftershock, going all the way through Chicago. Richard, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. So I appreciate you willing to do this interview with us. I think we're going to get some really good insight from you, how the tour went, your thoughts, some of your feelings during the tour. So we're going to jump right into it. And we get a little baseline stuff for you and your fandom. So, how long have you been a fan of the band?
I found them in March of 2021, which is not that long for being this crazy.
All right. So, what was it about them? What song got your attention and made you just have to do this?
Well, I started playing the drums in the early 90s. And like everybody, I would play, 2, 3 hours a day for several years, and then it kind of waned. But I've always followed them, and I do play every once in a while. And I was watching drum covers, and a Band-Maid song came up. I was probably Thrill. I don't remember at the moment. But then that led me to another song. I was like, man, this drummer is awesome. And then more and more. And then I was in. Usually within a day or two, I was completely in. So the drummer, Akane, really pulled me in. So
Gotcha. You might be the first person I've ever heard say that their fandom started by watching covers
yeah, and
of
it wasn't
their
even their
songs.
song. It was another band, which I don't remember what it was, but it was a suggested video. And I saw the suggested video. I'm like, what is that?
Oh, so you saw Akane covering
No,
somebody?
no, it was another band. It was somebody was covering another band's song. And then a suggested video was a Band-Maid song, and I was like, "What is that?" So I watched it, and that's how I got in. So a drum cover led me to them.
Gotcha. Okay. So do you know, is there one specific song that you were like, okay, I'm all in now?
It was probably the live ones because Domination and Freedom come up quickly usually, and I was like, "Wow, they're that good live. This is insane." So then I was in through the whole catalog and at least the online catalog, the YouTube catalog, in probably a day. So
Gotcha. All right. Uh, so do you have a current favorite song across
I
the
don't
recorded material?
I don't pick favorite Band-Maid songs. I like to say I have a 50-way tie for first. Um, it's just the next one I'm going to listen to is my favorite one. I've never, I mean, the next closest band that has this many good songs to me is probably Rush. And I don't know if they even have this many good songs so well put together and performed. That's,
That's amazingly high praise.
yeah, yeah. Well, Rush was my favorite band until about 6 months ago, and I just had to admit it was Band-Maid. I think I was resisting.
Outstanding. So prior to this marathon tour that you went on, had you seen them live before? Well, actually, I think I know the answer to that because you just found them about a year ago.
Yeah, yeah. No, I had not just the videos. And then, of course, I subscribed to Prime and ordered all the live concerts every time they came up. So I watched all those. And
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about this tour. So you were one of only, I think, three people that I'm aware of that went to every single show on this tour. So how did that whole thing come about?
in November, I was pretty much fully on board with Band-Maid, and I had seen their previous tours. The number was 5 or 6 shows. So I told my wife, I'm like, man, if they tour the US, I'm going to every show, thinking it might be 8. And then they released it, and it was Aftershock came up, and I'm like, all right, I like a lot of these other bands, and it's a 5 hour drive for me. So I bought tickets for that and went to that. But shortly after that, they released their tour, and I'm like, 11 shows. That's a huge commitment. I think I can do it. So I bought all the tickets for that, and then within a few days, bought all the airline tickets, which was a smart thing to do at that time. Um, and then, which I didn't know it was the right thing to do. And then they added 2 more shows, and I was like, "Can I?" I'm like, I figured I was already in deep. It's only 2 more days of travel, so I bought the next 2 shows. So
That so that was what New Jersey and Chicago.
Chicago,
Gotcha. Okay.
they had a Jersey in Chicago.
All right. So you bought all these tickets really early. Is it safe to assume you were VIP for every show?
Yeah, I bought VIP for every show. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you have your lanyards?
Well, I have them in their bags with their hats. This way we can show which cards came at each show if people want to know that. I haven't broken everything apart yet,
Mm,
but I do have them by city. But because I had a lot of logistics to take care of, so immediately when I got to my room, I would put everything in the bag that was from that city
mhm.
and label it, and just even in Phoenix, I had to ship stuff back because I had too much stuff, So, but
So
yeah,
mhm. That actually leads me
Seattle.
into my next question. I'm sorry, go ahead. What you got?
Yeah, I got Seattle, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, Phoenix, Dallas with the towel, Houston, DC, um, Philly, New York, Boston, New Jersey, and Chicago. It's a lot. There are people that want to complete their card collection that I've met, and next week when I get stuff more squared away, I'm going to trade some of them out for those so they can complete their card collections. I don't need 13 beanies and all those signed cards.
Gotcha, right on. That's incredibly impressive.
I also had the fan merch in there, and the Dallas one I got a coin from you. So I also have to agree with Peter Lim. I think that was probably the best piece of fan merch I got the whole time. There's a lot of great stuff, but
Right on.
just having mass seems to add it's the heavy coins. So
Did you please tell me you got a Misa towel from LA?
I got a Misa towel from LA. Yep, I
Okay,
got two of those because somebody asked me for one, and I asked for an extra, and he
gotcha.
gave it
All
to
right,
me.
cool, cool.
There was a people at I think it was Butch or somebody asked for one. So
Better not have been Butch because I sent him one.
yeah, maybe it was somebody else. There's a lot of people. I got to go through my notes and
No, that's so that's probably were you surprised at how ingratiating the fan base was through all this?
yeah. Well, I mean, I figured those of us that were there early would be singing and throwing things, and I figured there'd be some fan merch, but it was actually you don't really know how awesome it is until you're in it. So, well, yeah, it was still more than I expected and quite a bit better. In fact, a lot of the fans made. I still would have probably made it to every show. It would have been a lot more difficult, but a lot of people helped out along the way. You know, just meeting Butch right away kind of cemented how I need to run when I get to shows. And
Mm,
um, Derek from Canada gave me some rides where I ended up avoiding trains, and that was a good thing because one of those trains was canceled. And then Renee and Kevin on the East Coast gave me a ride. I avoided a train. And then Colin, who I met in San Francisco, he did 10 shows, gave me a ride from Boston, New Jersey, and that train ended up getting stuck on the tracks for 6 to 10 hours. So it was a good thing I avoided that one. There were people on it that made it to the show just as it was just before it started. So it
wow.
was. So I did take the train twice, but I had 5 trains booked, but I only took two, and 2 out of the 3 I skipped had trouble. So the one from LA to San Diego they canceled that train, then put me on something the next day. I'm like, that's not going to work. So
Okay, so one of my questions was about the logistics. What an incredibly expensive and daunting and just an organizational nightmare. Did you do all the logistics by yourself or did
I
someone else
did.
do it?
I do work in engineering, mostly automation controls, but I do a lot of small projects. So I just kind of assembled it like a work project in a way. These are the tasks that need to be accomplished. I need to gain flights. I need to get transportation. I need to get rooms. And then I need to understand these cities where things are. So I spend a lot of time studying maps from the venues to the airport venues to the train stations. And it was pretty pretty logical that way.
Yeah.
I did learn some things I would do different the next time. Like it's always important to make sure your room is very close to the venue. That's your number one priority to
Yeah.
these. If you're going to be on the rail, like I was on the rail for 13 out of 14 shows. So if you're going to be on the rail, your room needs to be very close, and you need to be willing to spend money on Ubers or You know, if you don't need to be on the rail, then you can figure out public transportation. You can show up later. Your room can be wherever it is. But if you want to be on the rail, it's a 10 to 12 hour day for every show, unless your transportation, like I made it to LA at 2 simply because the plane didn't get there till, you know, 12:30, and it's quite a ways across town. So
Yeah, LA, San Francisco to LA was tough because that's an 8, 9 hour drive, and there's guys who did that. They finished the show and just jumped on the road right away. Uh, Joe Luna,
yeah.
they drove. He was there at like 6:30 in the morning after being at the San Francisco show. So you either make that commitment to that crazy long drive, or you do the airport shuffle where you got to get there, you got to get checked in, you got to fly, then you got to get your bags. It's just a giant pain in the butt no matter what you do.
That one was interesting because I had a flight, but I had met Derek from Canada, and I sold him a ticket to the San Francisco show. And then I had spent so much money on Ubers in Seattle, and I figured out what the Uber was going to cost from the airport to the venue in LA. I just got a hold of him when I landed and said, "Where are you at?" And he said, "Not that far from the airport." So I just traded him a VIP ticket for a ride because it was almost the same price as the Uber. So he got into the LA show, and he drove me from the airport to the venue. And that I got there at 2, which was still 67th in line, which is not too far back, but LA was odd. There must have been a bunch of people who didn't quite know what it takes in LA, because when I went in at 67th person, there was still rail space. So I got to the rail. Um, People were at the bar and buying merch. I'm like, okay, I'm taking it, you know. So
You look, everybody has their own concert experience.
yeah.
I'm there at 5, and next tour, to be in the first 10 in, I'm guessing it's probably going to be 3 or 4 a.m. because there was guys at Chicago that I guess were out there at like 4.
Yeah, I got to Chicago at 6:15, and I was 14th show, 14th one in. And yeah, I don't, some of this is becoming escalating the times. But I don't know, maybe some of their venues will be a little bit bigger. When you get to the next size venue, you kind of have seats, and then you're just where you are. We'll see,
Hmm.
but that'd be kind of nice. Actually, I prefer they sell higher end VIP that costs more money, and you don't have to fight to get there at 6 in the morning to be in the top, 40. I wouldn't. I mean, it costs so much to do this anyway. If you're going to a bunch of show, the tickets are the cheapest part. Even if they were $500 a ticket, it would still be, it would be expensive, but it would be on par with airfare, and so.
Right. So having gone to some other tours, Baby Metal in particular, like when they played the Will Turn, I went to that show, and they had this offer where you were on the floor, but it was a private table, and you had private underground parking, and then a little VIP area, and then you got to go up to your wait service table. Uh, I could easily see them doing something like that, but next time they come here, they're going to be more like the Palladium size, like the 3,500, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
just that's just another a gigantic open floor. That's just going to be another free for all. And that the Baby Metal people, those guys lined up like 2 p.m. the day prior.
Wow.
So hopefully we don't get to that. I really don't want to do that again, to be honest with you. I'm getting
No,
older.
yeah, I figured out I stood in line 133 hours. That's just to get in. So that includes aftershock too. But aftershock I included the rail time because you're holding the rail between other bands, so that's your line time at aftershock.
Oh, sure. So talking about Aftershock, was there a I've been to other shows where there's a camaraderie, like, hey, I'm here for Band-Maid, you're here for the band before. You can have my rail spot, but you need to get out when that's over. Did you do that, or did you just hold on to that for dear life?
Well, there was a little bit of both. So when I was walking to the venue, because they don't let you in until noon, and a guy texted me and said, "Hey, there's already people here on the rail for Band-Maid." I'm like, I was gonna go see the Warning. Well, I guess I'm skipping the Warning.
Hmm.
So I went straight to the rail, and the first band, everybody on the rail, and I think everybody in the second row were all Band-Maid people, uh, there to see Band-Maid. Which that gal, they put a lot into their band. If they keep working at it, they might go somewhere. But at the end, the gal singing was like, "We really appreciate you guys coming. We thought there was going to be 5 people." And my comment has been, "Well, there's 50 Band-Maid people plus 5 people. So we're all just." Um, so the second band, there was a gal who came to see them. They had won some contest to be on there. So Butch and I let her in so she could watch them up close. But then she left and left the hole. So
All
yeah,
right.
we did. Yeah, letting people on the rail. So like Michelle G from the Ocean, or Michelle GT that does the covers, she was worried about getting the rail, but Joe and I told her we would hold a spot in front of Konami for her, so we did, and we let her on the rail. And then in uh, Juno and Heidi on the San Diego show were on the rail, and so 2 of us ended up in different spots, and we just told them to pick whoever you find, and then we'll let them in front of us. So they ended up picking where the other guy Jason was. But and then a lot of the shows I would turn around if there was a shorter woman behind me. I would ask, "What's your favorite song?" And it was always Daydreaming, and I say, "When Daydreaming comes on, I'll switch with you, and you can go stand on the rail." So that happened 4 times, 4 different shows. The last lady was twice, two shows in a row. She was behind me, and she said her goal was to be next to me on the rail for the last show in Chicago, and she showed up at 6:30, and she ended up being right next to me on the rail. So, um, but,
Cool. So you actually kind of dovetailed into my next question with that. So the lineup is kind of with Band-Maid and actually really any hardcore fandom. It's kind of a special experience. You get to hang out, you get to meet people that maybe you know from online, or just the real hardcore of the hardcore who are willing to stand in line for 12 hours or more in some cases. Do you have any like really cool memories from waiting in line?
I mean, there's so many. I mean, that's how I met so many people. I mean, that's how I got rides. Like Kevin and Renee gave me a ride from DC to Philly, so I got there early enough to be in line and be in the front, you know. And I remember seeing you in LA and then meeting you in Dallas, and Peter Lamb, and then Vladimir. I met him in LA, so gave him a New York ticket so he could fill out that side of the show. And yeah, it was just everybody. I mean, there's like Gene and Phoenix, and obviously I already talked about Joe and Derek and Heidi. There was a lot of people. They're still messaging me about how the shows were. And it's, you build this community. It really is a community. So
Right, right, right. So having gone to every single show on the tour, you heard every single song that they played on this tour. Was there one that you just had to have and got it, or was there one that stands out above the rest?
um no, I mean, I figured they would pick songs that had more English in them, and that was like their base 9-ish songs with a lot more English in them. I just wanted to make sure that like Manners and Warning, some of the newer ones were on there. I knew they would play like Influencer at most of them and stuff like that. And I had not had much chance to listen to the brand new album. I listened to it maybe through twice, just the way I don't stream. I only listen to CDs and records, as you can see behind me. I only find new music on YouTube, but I don't listen to it on YouTube, if that makes sense. My cars have really good stereos in them, all of them. I just rip out whatever's factory right away, and I have a really big stereo here, so it's only I can. They don't sound as good streamed, so that's out for me. So when I listen to an album, I might listen to, if I put Conqueror in, I might listen to it for 4 weeks straight in a certain vehicle, and then the other vehicle might have, you know, another album, and I'll listen to that one for 3 weeks straight in that car. So the new one I hadn't put in a vehicle yet, so it's so I didn't have any particular song they had to be, but I was hoping they would, and they mixed up more than I thought they would, which was great. I think what they played 33 different songs overall, or 30. So
I don't know the answer to that. I probably should, but that sounds about right. I know there was 5 songs I think that only got played once, and I
yeah, yeah.
think Thrill,
In Seattle, yeah.
Hibana for LA, and I couldn't tell you what the other ones, but I think Onset they did a couple of times.
They did Onset like 3 times. Yeah, when they first played Onset, it caught me off guard because I was kind of getting into the pattern of the show, and they're always playing From Now On. And so I was expecting From Now On, and it sounded so wrong. I was like, what is going on? Wait a minute, that's Onset. So it caught me off guard. When you're expecting a song to be a certain sound and notes and tones, even though I know onset very well, like I was like 10 seconds of confusion. I'm like, what is this? Oh,
So, a minute ago, you had mentioned vinyl behind you, and you mentioned
yeah,
Conqueror. Unless I'm wrong, isn't that Conqueror right behind you poking out?
yeah, it is.
Yeah, all right. I
Yeah,
thought I saw Miku there. All right.
yeah,
Uh, so New Jersey seemed like a really odd ad to a lot of us. When the
me
tour
too.
announced and then they added New Jersey, it's like it's in a mall, in a theme park, and it holds like 4,000 people. We weren't sure what it was going to be like. Well, so what was your impression of the New Jersey at the Nickelodeon Park?
Well, I had the same intrepidation. Like, what is this going to be? It doesn't matter. It's Band-Maid. I'm going anyway, right? So, um, I've learned from this one. Don't ever let the venue stop you. Go see Band-Maid. Um, so I think if they would have sold more tickets, they would have built a stage in another area and moved some of the rides look like they can slide them, move them out of the way. But they do have a built-in smaller stage, which by looking behind me on the other crowds, this crowd looks like there's probably 1,000 people showed up to this one. But just the way the roller coaster and stuff in the way, at certain parts you could only get maybe 8 or 10 people deep, or other parts there were like 25 people deep. So it was odd shape just because of the way. But it actually, and I thought the sound was going to be terrible, but when you're so close to the PA, it sounded awesome up close. So I don't know about the people in the back; it could have been horrible for them. But as far as somebody who's standing in line for 12 hours, the mall was the best place. It's temperature controlled. You have all sorts of public bathrooms, and you have a huge variety of food, anything you need. In fact, that's the venue where I think Colin and Kevin came up with the banana idea for Akane. Like, if when she eats a banana, some of us that have been to a lot of shows and we trust should all eat a banana at the same time. And so they found a place that had bananas, and then they got a hold of the tour manager June and talked to him for permission. He talked to security, and of course the rest of the security didn't know. So when we're in line with 25-ish bananas, that security guy had to go get Jessica, the VIP lady, to get June to okay with security. So they let us in with like 25-ish bananas. And we, knew the people who've been to a lot of shows. So we very clear, like when she eats her banana, we eat our banana, and nobody leaves them on the floor, nobody throws them. We put them all in this bag. And so yeah, I think the mall security was impressed. We pull out the bananas, everybody eats them, and then we hand a bag down the line and everybody put their peel in it, and there was no mess. And that security guy was amazed that we had numbers, and when the time came, we all put ourselves in order, and then we all picked up the bananas. He was commenting on those of us in the front that I can't believe you guys lined up in number order without any problems. And well, like 50 of those people had been to at least 2 or 3 shows, so
Right.
it's
Yeah.
we know how it works.
And that's kind of like the people at the front of the line. It's over the different tours, these things develop. Like the first time I ever heard of the numbering was again at a Baby Metal show. They were doing that, so you know where you're at, so you can come and go because you're gonna be there forever. It
Yeah,
gives you that opportunity to float around. So, and I'd
you
heard that.
have to.
Yeah, I'd heard several of the venues that I've either were at or heard stories from the security, like wow, you guys are some of the coolest fans that we've ever been around. And I just saw Michelle's video this morning, and saw the banana prank. That was the first I saw it. So
Yeah, I haven't
that
seen
was
that
pretty
yet.
cool. So, all right, 14 shows in about just a little over 2 weeks. One favorite memory?
Uh, it's probably, well, the logistic nightmare actually came out to be a really cool story. So after the New Jersey show, I made the mistake of booking a room at America's Extended Stay, some name like that, which I didn't know was a bad chain, Extended Stay America. So after the show, we get something to eat, and Colin drops me off. And so I go to check in. There's a note that says, be back, went to the bathroom. So for 15 minutes, I'm waiting, and then I move around to the front of the counter and sit on my luggage. I'm still waiting, and then the June comes by, the manager, and I just caught him out of the corner of my eye because I was pretty tired. Then I'm still waiting, like 10 more minutes later, Michael, the bus driver, comes in. And he's like, whoa, what are you waiting for? I'm like, well, I need a room and there's nobody here. He goes, this is a really bad hotel. He had to change rooms because there's dried stuff in his toilet. And so I'm talking to the bus driver, and then he leaves. And then June, one of the other guys came in. I can't remember his name. but he's like pointing at me because I'm sitting in my luggage. He's like, "Oh, Band-Maid." And I'm like, "Yeah, I've been to all the shows." And he's like, "This is a really bad hotel." I'm like, I'm getting that feeling. And then Muchan, which is her name is Misa, the guitar tech that everybody was trying to crack through the whole thing. She comes in with the bus driver, and June, the manager, comes in, and then those two are talking to me. So Michael, the bus driver, is trying to get me in his room. He's like, "Well, I didn't use my room. You should just use my room. I only use the shower." And then and then he leaves, and then the manager is trying to help me, like, "Well, maybe you can have a room with one of us, or you can." I'm like, "No." So I had to explain to him that I really try to keep my distance from the staff and crew
Mhm.
because I'm standing in the middle of 13 crowds. They don't, I'm a vector. Even if you're not into COVID, there's lots of other diseases I could pass along. Nobody needs a cold, nobody needs a flu. So I never approached any of them. They always approached me. So it was really interesting them trying to help me. I'm like, I'm just a guy following you guys around. Why are you trying to, they're so nice.
You know what? That's an amazing story. Again, I hadn't heard it, so I'm glad we're having this conversation. So I think there's a lot of people who are going to be watching this with their mouth open, like the band staff was trying to help you because they recognized you from all the venues.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had, Alan, the equipment driver, every time he's like, "Man, you're still here." And then he had June pull me out for an interview, which was horrible because I was not ready for that. And then it was less conversational than this. And then yeah, I'd seen them all and talked to them, and a lot of them would come up to me, and because they see you all the time.
Right.
It's
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a couple pictures up here real quick, and we'll start with Alan. Alan is just a cool dude. For those who weren't at the tour, this guy was at every stop. He's always there about between 8 and 9 in the morning. He's driving all of the gear. So tell me a little bit about your experience with him.
Yeah, he'd come find me every day. It's like, "You again, you again." And so he's the one that had them pull me out of the line for an interview. Yeah, he was so awesome at every show. I should have just rode with him. It would have been easier. But,
He probably would have let you, to be honest with you. The dude was just that cool.
yeah, yeah.
And I
No, he
see you
was.
got a monkey in the background there, Brian.
Yeah, yeah, Brian. Yeah, yeah.
So you sent me some other pictures. Let's see what we got. So this is, where is this?
This is the last show after the Chicago, or after the, yeah, Chicago show.
Okay.
These are the three guys that went to every show. Well, Taka and I did Aftershock, and Taka really is the overall hero of this, because he didn't wait in line all day to be in the front, but he would get there 2 to 4. But he came over from Japan. English is a second language. He also worked, so he would go to a show and then he would work all night unless his transportation was a problem. And then he would sleep a little bit and then come to the next show. It was insane how much. And then he would use public transportation. He would figure out every city's trains, every city's bus. I didn't have them. I didn't think I'd have the mental capacity to do that, and I didn't want 13 apps on my phone. So I just decided I was going to pay for Uber, and
Right.
or Lyft or whichever ride service you want to use.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he put in the work.
So let's see. I know so here, this is Michelle. Now, how many shows did you see Michelle at?
So I met her in San Francisco, and she's the one that Joe and I made sure we got her in front of Konami. And then I was in her other video, her first video. And then I saw her uncle surprised her with this trip. Um, so I saw her. They were there before me on this time. So I think Konami patted her on the head and gave her a pick, gave her a pick. But
Yeah, she was there super early. She's got it's like a 35-minute video that's like a vlog of the
yeah,
travel and the setup and the venue and the show. I watched this one. It's a really good
yeah,
watch.
it'll be cool to watch.
So I think we're going to try to talk to her at some point too and get her
Yeah, yeah,
input on
she's
this.
super cool. Yeah, go watch her videos. They're good.
So let's see. Oh, this was Dallas. This was when
Yeah,
we got bumped out to the surface of the sun.
yeah, at like 1 o'clock.
Yeah. You, Chester, and then there's the Mad Russian Vlad there.
Glad, yeah,
Um, let's see. I know there was one here. And then this is after House of Blues. This is what they put on their social media. And
yeah, yeah,
I think that says a lot. That one and then this one right here was
yeah,
just
yeah.
I think that's how we all felt at the end of this tour and for each show. We're just so happy and so proud of everything they've accomplished.
Yeah, I went to there was a kind of a core group of us for the first 4 or 5 shows, like Derek, Heidi, Juno, and Joe that went to the West Coast shows. And then they start messaging me, and it was kind of like they have what they call, I think Juno may have described the best. She called it post Band-Maid depression. You know. And then I kind of made the joke, like, do we get a month of depression for every show we went to? I got enough depression for a year, you know. But
That's it's definitely an experience. I've been every time they come to the LA area, I've been going since the J-pop summit up in San Francisco. So yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. You spend every ounce of energy you have, you're exhausted, but you do it again in a heartbeat.
yeah, that's a couple people. I think Derek and Juno and Gene from Phoenix are. I think they're gonna try to do every show next time. So I'll probably try to do every show next time again.
Yeah, I can't do that because I like being married.
That's my benefit is like my wife for last 14, 15 years goes to one music festival, sometime two a year with her sister and other friends. And even when the kids were young, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up through high school, I stayed home with them for a week while she went to festivals, and I never went anywhere. So somebody was asking her, like, you're just going to let him go for 3 weeks? Well, first of all, nobody lets me do anything, and I don't let her do anything. And she pointed out, well, he stayed home with the kids while they were in school for the last 10 to 14 years while I went to festivals. And she's like, I think it's awesome. Everybody should do what you're doing. So,
Well, I had one last question, but you basically just answered it in that last response. Given everything that you went through, the time, the expense, the tiredness, all of that stuff, would you do another full US tour?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's kind of a limit of 3 weeks. If it went longer than 3 weeks, that would be tough. But yeah, and I would do some things differently. But generally, I would at least hit, 9 or 10 of them. So
At least 9 or 10.
if they can condense it, it just depends on where they're at. I mean, yeah, I would do it again. Yeah, I would not do this for any other band. There's no way. I'm surprised I did it to begin with, but I mean, I knew, but you don't really know until you go to a bunch of shows, and then you're like, I get it, you know. The YouTube videos and stuff do a lot of justice to them, but it's still not the same as being there. Like, I get the question, what's the best show? And I think Joe Luna kind of said it best. It's the next Band-Maid show. There is no best one. You just go to the next one, and you go to the next one. You just go to a show.
All right. Richard, this has been an absolute blast. I've actually heard some things. I learned some things, and some of the stories, like the banana story, that's just absolutely fantastic to hear
Yeah,
that played out, and to hear that the staff was trying to help you out.
yeah,
You, sir, have a very good Band-Maid memory to share.
yeah,
So I appreciate this conversation. If you ever need anything else, if you want to do something like this again, please let us know.
yeah,
And you have one final comment before we get out of here?
yeah. Just go to a show. Don't miss them. I'm trying to figure out how to go to Tokyo. I think Michael Barber's got some tickets. So
Gotcha. All right, Richard, thank you very much. Everybody watching, this has been Band-Maid News Network, and keep an eye out for other videos. Be sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time on Band-Maid News Network.